The Better Ancestors series has invited us to celebrate the richness of our experience, interrogate identity and power, and acknowledge the people who allow life to spring forward today. I'm incredibly honored to be with you in this venue that just matches the intention of this powerful series. And let's just be honest, there's not a lot of spaces that's dedicated to the beauty, innovation, and history from the African continent. The piece I selected to kick us off today really embraces the idea of writing from our experiences. Although I've written for Disney and Marvel, the practice that made me a writer was the practice of journaling every day. Every day since I was a kid, and then turning those ideas into a memoir that I'm still looking to publish. Each of us here, whether we identify as a memoirist or not, bring memoiristic elements to our writing. We write what we know. So this is the conclusion, the epilogue of my memoir. Living life as a writer, no, actually a memoirist, means that everyday moments become more than just an everyday moment. Eating oatmeal at my Oakland apartment brings back a memory of how Grandma Dorothy taught me that the porridge along the edges of the bowl were the least hot. Eat that first, she advised. Does that belong in the memoir? There are other comforting memories, like how drinking sweet tea reminds me of Grandma Gloria scooping handfuls of sugar into plastic pitchers. Cut lemons floated like lily pads on top, and when the tea was all gone, I loved gnawing at their sweet and tart rinds. Does that belong in the memoir? Or then there's the numerous times I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. Sometimes it was easier to bleed than it was to cry. And sometimes I wished it was someone else's blood. Do all of those moments belong in the memoir? 1 minute, you're a grown-ass 401k contributing dental insured adult man. And the snap of a cheesy baked cracker in your watered mouth conjures a trip to the convenience store and stomps open a hidden door, ushering an uncanny detail about the night Grandpa Charles molested you. Cheez-Its. That definitely belongs in the memoir, but only after much, much coaxing from others. And what about the details? I don't remember everything precisely. Details such as if the family clerk gave me a peppermint before or after the social workers in the room left, or I remember accepting a peppermint, or maybe my mom wasn't wearing a brown Old Navy cardigan when she was packing our bags because we were leaving Grandma Dorothy's house for good, but she certainly owned this garment and wore it frequently. And do I still refuse to sleep naked as an adult because of what Grandpa Charles did to me as I was falling asleep? I don't know for sure, so I didn't include that detail. But I do want you to know that I thought about it. I've examined these details with a surgeon's precision. These are the stories I have to lean into to build the memoir that exists today. I'm like a miner in a dark cave, searching, trying to collect worthwhile items to bring back to the surface. Only upon bringing them into a wedge of light do I realize that the work isn't done and more polishing is needed. And if I'm not careful, I might get cancer. Not black lungs disease, but cancer of the soul. The more I explore, the more I realize I'm unlocking countless stories that each take me on this nostalgic journey, popping up like dandelions. I started this journey so naively, thinking it wouldn't take as much as it actually did. The first ever skeleton of my memoir was formed from my college essays when I was 17 years old. Applying to Harvard and the University of Pennsylvania for admission, I quickly began to think that 750 characters were insufficient to articulate my personal statement. I could compose a memoir from these scripts by combining a surprisingly unremarkable number of letters and spaces, I thought. If each year of human life consists of millions of words, so naturally, whether you're 12, 20, or in your twilight hours, you too have sufficient content for a 60,000 word memoir, right? If lives were as simple as word counts, then memoirs are a piece of cake. But I wanted meaning, I wanted depth. That took performing an exorcism over my memories. And then I wondered, if I did all this work, would people even understand it? Sure, some people will be so oblivious that they'll think that LGBTQ plus is some new streaming service. And yes, Florida and 16 other states will ban it, but I mean the people who actually want to seek out stories like my own. Will they get it? I mentioned having dogs growing up in my memoir, but I didn't mention much. There's meaning in the exclusion alone. A whole discussion on how white people and black people have different relationships to pets can be explored there. But if I actually talked about that, it would bring readers out of the story, out of the feelings of what was going on. The scene's focus would feel less immediate. But if you really sit with the text of my memoir, you'll realize that it's sort of like those space-saving vacuum plastic bags. You put some air into them, and then they expand back to life, and you realize how much space was there to begin with. And oh, so many times I wanted to give up and write a goddamn angry Facebook post and just call it a day. Unlike a Facebook post, which can be thought of in minutes and shared to thousands in seconds, a book goes through several, what feels like endless, revisions and can wait in an indeterminate state for years. I was pounding the pavement for 7 years before I even got a glimmer of attention from the mainstream publishing industry. It was when George Floyd was murdered that folks wanted to see my manuscript. It literally took an innocent black man being restrained unashamedly in front of an audience like a circus on video for me to find momentum in my writing career. George Floyd had to be suffocated by a white man for 9 minutes and 29 seconds before white-led children's publishing decided it was time we needed some more black queer stories. One white gay agent, the father of a black child even, quickly declined my request for representation. I already published one black queer memoirist. His words didn't even trip out of his mouth. That's racism. My memoir, as it exists today, ends when I'm 18 years old. I'm now 27 years old. It's a blessing to have lived beyond that, and the long fought for epithet of memoirist won't easily be put down. It still lives within me. This is my first book, and there are many more inside of me, ready to vie for their solo debut. Thank you.